Hi there, I'm Melanie Carr, and this podcast is about human sexuality, the evolution of our sexual energy, and how to use your creative, intimate energy to create your life mission and be able to use the synchronicity of the universal energy and your own creative, intimate energy to have a successful and fulfilling life. So I want to continue here with I'm going to call it the ORGASM series because, interestingly enough, I did talk a little bit more, just more on a general level about orgasm and not so much about the evolution process. And it was quite a successful podcast for starting out here. So I was thinking a little bit more about it and came up with a few more ideas to share. Well, here I need to take a look at my notes. Just give me a second here, because I came up with some good stuff. All right, so, okay, here we go. Making orgasm easier and the role of a sexual transmutation in this process. And probably this part of the series will be a little bit more towards women, because obviously most guys have it pretty easy when it comes to having an orgasm. And I think it's a little bit harder for guys to work more on the side of the sexual transmutation, which is obviously it's a little bit more like working to use your intimate energy for your life purpose and not have a physical orgasm every time you're experiencing a sexual situation, whether by yourself or with someone else. And obviously for women, that's a little bit easier to start working on. However, it's not impossible. And I think it's part of the idea about this. It's kind of a new cultural idea, at least for us in the West. Not so much in the Chinese culture or the Indian culture. A lot of people have more information about this. But in our Western American, Canadian, Mexican, like Latin American culture, this is a pretty new concept. So one of the things that I think is a huge benefit about learning a little bit more about this is the fact that for women at least, and for guys too, because obviously if you're overdoing it and you're having more than like 4 physical orgasms a week, which would be the ancient Chinese idea as to maybe depleting your physical energy in your body a little bit more than what would be healthy. This is just the Chinese idea. This is not, this would be like the Tao philosophy idea, more or less from what I've read and studied. However, you have to use your intuition also as a person, and people come in many different shapes and sizes and many different also levels of sexual energy. There are some people that have way more libido and sexual energy, and others have less. I kind of call them like sun people. They come here with just a lot of creative and erotic and juicy energy, and these people are often quite intelligent with a lot of very creative abilities, or almost getting up a little bit onto the genius level. I have met friends who are musicians who are just amazing artists. They compose and they're just creative, and they have a really hard time in their lives because of the amount of sexual energy that they have. And in other walks of life too, not just musicians. And this podcast in a way is for these people too, because what do you do when you have so much sexual energy and you need to keep things in balance, but you also need to feel that that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're, that you're overdoing it. If you are a person with a lot more sexual energy, that 4 times a week might not apply to you. I don't think we can generalize. It's just kind of a standard that came from the Tao philosophy, the ancient Chinese Tao philosophy. And I haven't studied it that deeply, but I have gotten some of my information from it. It's one of the few places we can find any information about sexual transmutation. And I think I'm going to have to do a podcast to define sexual transmutation, probably, because some people might be going, what is that? Anyways, what's she talking about? Basically, it's using your erotic, intimate, creative energy and bringing it up into your heart center, bringing it up the chakra system, up your spinal column, and starting to use it for other creative endeavors in your life other than just having a sexual experience or a physical orgasm with someone else or by yourself. I always put that in there because a lot of people ask me, can you do this on your own? Do you need to have a partner? And I always love to talk about how, everyone can work on this, and actually working on it by yourself is probably one of the best ways to learn about yourself. So back to the topic here about orgasm and making orgasm a little bit easier. I think one of the ways we can start to be able to get to a place where we can control our ability to have an orgasm kind of on demand or when we want. It has a lot to do with working on creating the accumulation of the energy. And for girls, this is a lot easier, I think. And it's really smart also for guys to know this, just as a great sex tip, because I started adding some sex tips in here. I'm not exactly a sexologist or a psychologist, but I come across some juicy tidbits sometimes, and when you do, it's kind of cool to share them. And one of those things is, like, for girls, if you're going to have an experience with your partner in the evening, for example, and starting in the morning, they start to play around, they start to make fun comments with you about how you're going to make love in the evening, and then as you go through the day, they take a few different moments to grab you and to turn you on and to let you know that this is coming. Girls find it a lot easier to have an orgasm when they sort of have a heads up and they're able to accumulate the energy throughout the day or throughout the week, or however you are with your sexual energy, the amount of sex that you feel is healthy for yourself, and the amount of physical orgasm, I should say, because you can have as much sex as you want. It's super healthy. Well, obviously, too, what would be considered, kind of, I got to be careful with that. It can also become an addiction, right? So, yeah, you want to be careful with that. But in general, for most people, just having their regular sex life is healthy, and you can work on sexual transmutation along with your normal physical sex life, right? So my point here is that if you are trying to get a girl turned on and help her have a great experience, if you do go throughout the day and you're kind of getting her turned on and letting her know and working with the sexual energy as the day or a couple days goes by, and then the afternoon and then the evening comes, it will be so much easier for her to have an orgasm together with you if she has had this kind of preparation and this time, because this is kind of interesting topic for girls, right? Because we take a little more time, and guys are pretty fast and pretty easy for them to get things going, and obviously for women it's a little bit more a process. It's more in the mind, it's more emotional, it's more of a process of this whole kind of experience happening, right? So that is kind of the tip of the day. And I think for girls, this is a really good situation here to kind of help get things going. And I think it's hard for guys because if they start early in the day thinking about this and playing, they can get really turned on really easy. And sometimes for girls, it takes a little longer. But I think if men are smart, they can kind of get things started. And obviously, they have to keep kind of control, not get too turned on, and kind of do it for the girl and get her going. And as the day goes by, the woman's going to become more turned on and more turned on, so that when you do get to the evening, you're able to kind of create that experience or that situation for her. And this is something guys can do, but this is also something that women can do for themselves. You can go through your day and take moments to do little kind of erotic introspections and work with your energy throughout the day, just in different moments, so that when you do get to the evening and your partner comes home from work, or you get together, or you go out on a date, you are so turned on that it's just a really, really pleasant experience. And this is what shows you where it's kind of your responsibility too to get yourself turned on, because you know what your erotic triggers are. So you can get yourself to a place where you can be able to manage your energy much easier, and then be able to have this simultaneous orgasmic situation with someone, right? And or wait till the next day or the next day to have that physical orgasm. You got to kind of get together on this with your partner, because a lot of guys, if they don't know you're doing this, they might feel disappointed that you didn't have a physical orgasm. And this is where we have to do a lot of education with people now, because if people are going to start practicing these kind of things, then, your partner has to kind of know or understand that you're working on this, because otherwise they're going to think like, oh, that wasn't, necessarily a successful experience. Whereas if your idea is that you want to get a little more energy together and use your energy throughout your day to create and to be creative and do what you came here to do, whatever your personal life mission is, or your mission as a couple or as a family, you want to have that energy to be able to use it for those things, and then also to be able to use it as an energetic catalyst in the relationship, because the energy in the relationship also kind of peters out if it's just too much sex and too much physical normal sex, and not using some of the energy sometimes by holding that energy together for a while, for a couple of days, and then having a physical orgasm with the person. We'll get more into energetic orgasm in the next episode. So yeah, I think it's important. I think it's really important for women, as far as having an easier orgasm, to use this process of getting turned on, thinking about the things that turn you on, having your partner turn you on, and accumulating the energy through the day or for a couple of days, so that when you do have an experience, it's so much more energetic and so much more able to focus, and you're so much more turned on. And as you're practicing this throughout the day, you're learning to have that deeper erotic focus in your mind as well. So you're working with it, and you're working with the energy. And as you work with the energy, you can use some of it for the things you want to do. Like, say you have to do a creative project, or you have to write, or you have to create a marketing ad. So you can work a little bit on this process of getting yourself turned on and getting your energy flowing and breathing in and moving the energy up your chakra system, and then try to focus on the work or the things that you have to get done. And you'll find that it's much easier. You'll have a lot more energy to do, a lot more inspiration and creative energy to do the things that you want to do. Even I was talking with a psychologist He works with families, and it's pretty dense and heavy energy that he's listening to people with all kinds of difficult emotional experiences and traumas. And he's listening to this all day. And we were talking about how sometimes he can use that energy in order for him to be able to keep his energy up and be able to process and help people with their own dense emotional traumas by him, taking a deep breath once in a while and taking a moment for himself to get himself his own kind of energy and his own erotic kind of like juices flowing, and then be able to go back and have enough energy to be able to listen to another 2 or 3 people and help them with their problems. Because if his energy goes down and the client's energy goes down after seeing 3, 4, 5, 6, people in difficult emotional traumas, he's finding it really hard not to absorb that energy. So if he was able to accumulate a little more energy and bring it up into his body, he was able to give so much more. Obviously, the energy, it shifts from being sexual energy to being heart-centered, loving kindness energy. So he will be with the clients. Obviously, he wouldn't be sharing his sexual energy, be sharing the loving kindness energy that he had breathed that energy up into his heart center, and he's able to share it out. And as long as you're sharing loving kindness energy out to another person, you're not absorbing their negative emotional energy. And this is where if we are just having physical orgasms, and too many of them, we deplete our own loving kindness ability. And this is where we have to sort of use our intuition to analyze. And that's where we know how much physical sexual experience we should be having and how much energetic experiences we should be working on accumulating and creating and bringing the energy up into our heart center and directing it with our mind. Our mind is the conscious, it's the conscious tool to use to direct the erotic, creative, intimate energy in our bodies. So this podcast is about how to start transmuting. That's why it's called sexual transmutation, transmuting the intimate energy up into the heart center for a loving kindness practice. And I'm just talking about this the best way I can because no one is doing it. Very few people are talking about it, and very few people are teaching it. There's a lot of mentors and masters and spiritual people, and they're talking about meditation and introspection and mindfulness, but no one's talking about where to get the energy from in order to create this loving kindness in your heart center. So you can get it from universal energy, you can get it from just the earth, and you can also, obviously, very important, use some of your own creative, intimate sexual energy to have a fulfilling, healthy, erotic life. And there you go. Have a great day. Work on having easier orgasms. Take care. Have a great day.